Welcome to this free lesson from a larger course you can access on digitalcreatorschool.com. My name is Lucas Ridley, and I'm the instructor of this course. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoy this or want to see more like it. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the first lesson in this course. I wanted to give a brief overview of how we're going to create this shader really quickly. So we're basically going to have three different networks that come together at the end. We're going to create the highlights, the midtones, and then the shadows. And so then we're going to pipe these in together and into one shader. And so it'll be a lot of networks within here and a lot of connections that'll get a little complicated, but I'll walk you through step by step how to make it so you'll understand exactly why and how to do everything. But most importantly, why are we doing and using the nodes that we're using in this network in here, right? So this is where the magic happens and how we will create the shader. So let's jump right into a new scene in Maya. And I'm going to open up this crab scan. It's from 3dscans.com, which has a lot of scans that are good and have no copyright restrictions on them, so you can use them for whatever you want. So we have this crab. I'm just going to lift it up off the ground a little bit and make a ground plane real quick. And there might be some steps I skip through a little bit because this is a more advanced tutorial. So, saying that the poly modeling shelf is over here and click the plane and all that kind of stuff. I might just not say it as much because hopefully you've taken my other classes by now and you are an intermediate or advanced user. So I want that plane because I want to be able to see the shadows later and also show you how the outline works on the Toon shader. Because if it's just black behind the object, you can't actually see the outline of that. But the outline itself is going to come at the very end. So we're not going to, even though we're using the Toon shader, we're not going to see the outline until the very end of the shader network. All right. So, because we need to put all that stuff together and then we'll put the edge on top of that. So the first thing we need to do is to create a Toon shader. So I'm going to select the crab, right click, go to assign new material, and then I'm going to choose an Arnold AI Toon. And then the first thing I'm going to do is open up the Hypershade. And what we're going to do is use the Toon shader is basically like a mask. And we want to constrict, when we're doing the highlight, the midtone, and the shadow, we're going to use a mask with a ramp to control each one of these. The highlight, the midtone, and the shadow are each going to have their own ramp that's going to control the mask of where those things should be shown on the model. And for us to be able to show that, we actually need a light. So let's create a light super quick just so we can see this once we start testing the render. I'm just going to use a directional light, and I can't emphasize enough, lighting is incredibly important to this effect. So you really want to know how this thing is built, because as soon as you get this in a new lighting situation, you're going to need to dig in and adjust some settings in the shader so that it works and the halftones are showing up where you want them, because it's very, very light dependent. So for right now, I'm just going to use a directional light set at an intensity of 1. But if I was to crank this up, it would totally change where those masks are going to be, because the brighter it is, the bigger the highlight. So right now we're going to create the highlight with that AI Toon shader that we just applied to the crab. So with the crab selected, I'm going to click this little button here to map the AI Toon that we just assigned to it. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to add a ramp. I like to hit tab on my keyboard while my mouse is over this window to get the search box up, and then just type in ramp, and we want the texture version. All right, we just want the normal, just the run-of-the-mill ramp. So I'm going to click drag, select both of those, and drag them over here. And I'm going to try to keep this stuff big on the screen so you can see it. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't use that anyway. I like to hit the tab in this window. So we have, let's just go ahead and name this stuff from the beginning to help keep this organized. I wanted to just quickly interrupt the video to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you like videos like this, let me know. Also hit the bell notification icon so you get notified when new videos come out like this. And give a thumbs up and a comment if you want to see more like it or to suggest a video that you'd like to see. Thanks for watching. So we're going to be working on the highlight. So I'm going to call this highlight underscore, because like I said, if you're, I'm going to call this highlight mask. If your lighting situation changes, you're going to need to dig in here, and you really want this stuff organized and labeled right so you can quickly see which node you want to get into to adjust. So on this Toon shader for the highlight, we're just going to skip the edge options up here at the top, the edge and silhouette. And we want to map in this ramp by middle mouse dragging it into the tone map. All right. So when we do an Arnold render view, and this is basically the effect we're going to have here in a second, and I hit play, you know, it doesn't look like that, but that's the effect we're going to go for. And I have 3D manipulation on here, so I'm just going to turn that off so I can reframe this a little bit. And I'm going to turn 3D manipulation back on so I can have these kind of side by side. Oh, I guess it makes it to fit the window. That is okay. So we have our Hypershade and we have our render preview. And it doesn't look like much is happening. It doesn't even look like a Toon shader really, even though we have this Toon shader applied. So like I said, this is going to be the mask. So we want to use the ramp to control this masked area. So as soon as we start dragging the positions of this, you can see we're constricting where the light is affecting it. So we're effectively making a mask here. And let me just check something in the Toon shader. I want the weight of this to be 1. By default, it's 0.8. And so this is why this is looking a little bit gray. I want that to be at 1, just to make sure that that is getting the full effect of the base color. So we are basically controlling right now we're controlling where do we want the halftone of the highlights to show up. So if later on, like I said, the lighting changes, and I'll just show you real quick what I mean by that. So we have the light here, and as soon as I start to crank up the intensity, you can see the ramp that we made just now gets kind of jacked up and changed a lot just from barely changing the intensity of the light. So you want to be careful with that, and definitely understand how the shader is built so that later on, if you need to, you can adjust where the mask is, which we may need to do later on in the course as well. So I'm going to try to get this in a good spot, and I'll maybe take it down a little bit the other direction here. And I think that's looking pretty good. You know, of course, highlights, you know, shouldn't take up the whole thing. And so that's why I'm trying to reduce it. And we can deal with that later. But basically, this is the first step of the process. We've made the mask for the halftone of the highlight. And so what we're going to use this to do is drive where the halftones are, but also their size. And that's why it's important to keep this interpolation between these two positions to be a gradual thing, because we're basically going to take the position and color of these into a range node and remap it. And we'll get into that in the next lesson. But just know that, you know, you've succeeded. You've made the mask for this, and we've created the first step in this network of shaders here on this step here. So we have a lot of steps here to go to get to where we can combine all of them together. So we're going to make the highlight first in the next series of lessons, and then we'll move on to the midtones and kind of repeat the same process, and same deal for the shadows. But these each are going to be slightly different. You know, we'll adjust them so they don't look exactly the same. These two, the highlights and midtones, are going to be halftone, and the shadow is going to be crosshatch. What I mean, you know, halftone are the dots, and crosshatch is the straight lines. So, and when I talk about knowing how this is made to mess with it yourself, there's a lot of different ways to do crosshatch. One is just, you know, having one directional of lines, and the other is to do 2. So, you know, you could have a second network of shadows down here. Now that you know, by the end of this course, you'll know how to make these and add them all together. So it's really up to your creative ideas to how you want to combine all this stuff after you learn how to do all of it. So look forward to seeing you in the next lesson, where we will actually make the halftone for the highlights and do a little more complicated work in the Hypershade. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks for watching this free lesson. If you want to see the entire course, you can become a member at digitalcreatorschool.com to get the course in its entirety, as well as all the courses available on the website, in addition to all future courses that will be published. As a monthly or annual member, you can cancel anytime. I will see you there, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification icons, as well as leave me a comment if you want to see more videos like this, or if you have a suggestion for a video you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching.